Sure. I will introduce you then. Yeah, yeah. I, Dr. Vikram, to talk. Uh, um, it's- uh, have okay. Vishal. Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. So first, a quiz question. How often do you see two people with the same name doing in the same department and doing something together? Same surname, and as I was telling that he intentionally added the K in order to ensure that people don't confuse. So yes, well. Uh, Let me just very quickly mention I got to know Vishal when I started to do my PhD, and I used to get his emails, and I don't know if he used to get mine, but definitely I would get his emails. And then we realized, and 3 years later, we made it a point that we'll meet somewhere in a conference and know who each one of us are. And yeah, maybe the idea to do something together came up. And this book is one of the joint works that we've done. Uh, Broadly, as you would know, this book is broadly about 75 Indians who've made a difference, who've made an impact on our society, who've made contributions to the country. And for now, I'll let Vishal do introduce why we actually did it, because to be honest, he was the person who said, "Let's do something on this." And so we'll talk about the motivation of the book, why we actually thought of doing this book, the methodology, the how did we actually identify these individuals whom we've written about. Of course, as we all know, India is a country of 140 crore people, okay, 1.4 billion people, okay, to and there are so many people who've contributed in so many ways to nation building and what India is today, and are actually contributing and in taking this country forward. So it was an important puzzle for us to think about how do we identify these 75 individuals. And 75, because I think at that point when we started thinking about the project, India had just about completed 75 years of independence. That was, you can say, the closest big benchmark that our nation had crossed. So that is why we thought, well, why not 50? Why not 60? Why not 100? Okay. We said, okay, let it resonate with where the country is at this point. Okay. So that was broadly the context. And Vishal, I'll pause for now and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Vishal. As he said, my name is Vishal K. Gupta. And he also rightly said that in the beginning we would get each other's email that people were sending. I still get. Sometimes because there are people who know both of us. So sometimes people on email are quick to send, right? You want to get done. So I still get. But what I'm waiting for is some days I will get the checks that are in his name get deposited in my account, but that hasn't happened yet. So if yeah, I hope someday your accounting office makes that mistake. So I'll tell you what my motivation was in why I was interested in this idea of 75. Uh, we are a country of 140 crores. We are a country of 1.4 billion, but unfortunately, we don't pay much attention to positive role models in our own country. In fact, we don't pay attention to positive things in our own country. We are very good at criticizing and focusing on negative things. We are very bad at turning the attention, turning the spotlight on positive things, right? And that was my motivation was that what about we talk to people about wonderful Indians who've done wonderful things right here in India. When I had first started sort of work on this, many people said, well, why don't you write about these Indians who are living overseas? Because of course I live overseas. And I said, that deserves attention, but probably in a future book. At this time, I'm interested in people who did wonderful things right here in India. And if you take one thing away from this talk, one thing away from the 2 or 3 years we put into this book, if you go away with one message, it is there are many wonderful people doing wonderful things right here in India. We don't know about them, we don't hear about them, so try to learn about them and try to spread the word about them, about positive things. Of course, we should improve on the negative things, but we should also acknowledge, praise, and appreciate the positive things. So that was my motivation.
So just a quick question. Uh, can you think of uh, can you think of names of 5 books that you are fond of, but have been written by Indians? If I were to ask you, think of 5 books that you think you would really want to cherish, or you've been kind of influenced by them, but they are Indian authors, not foreign authors. I think that is where if you ask people, my daughter is in class 7, you ask what is the literature they are reading. Okay, the literature is about maybe the great stories of Shakespeare, and but I think as Vishal very rightly said, we've kind of not paid attention to some of the great things that are happening in our country. And this quote actually brings that out very well, that if you want to look at a country, ask people who are your role models and who are your heroes. Who are the people whom you would want to emulate? Who are those individuals? And unfortunately, maybe it's a way the society is progressing, maybe the way our education system, not necessarily the society, but maybe the education system, that we increasingly feel as if there are no role models, or lesser of role models here. The role models are perhaps outside. And so could we do something about it, was the question we asked. Could we find such people and talk about those individuals whom we don't know in media so much. Okay, that is what the research was about. That is what the work was about. Yeah.
For 5 years, I brought American students to India on study abroad trip. 5 years. And we met some wonderful people. Okay. I would give them one assignment to do, my students. And I would say, identify 3 to 5 things that Indians can learn from America, and 3 to 5 things that America can learn from India. That was my assignment to them. Okay. And I would put them in teams with Indian students. Right. To me, that seemed like an easy, straightforward assignment. There's no technical knowledge needed here, right? Guess which part of the assignment students had an easy time with? 3 to 5 things that India can learn from America. And guess which part of the assignment the students always failed? 3 to 5 things that Americans can learn from India. Right? This book does not solve that problem, but hopefully it gives you some things in the form of the work these people have done to say, we have a lot to offer the rest of the world. This is a starting point. And I'm hopeful and I'm in some ways confident that there are way more intelligent people in India than Vishal and I who will build on these ideas. Well, maybe not Vishal and I, but certainly me, who will build on these ideas and take us to the next level in what we can teach the rest of the world. So in my part of the talk today, I'll make 3 points, okay? And then in those making those 3 points, I'll use examples from the book. As I've said before, we are largely unaware of our Indian heroes, our icons, and role models. If we ask people in India about role models, which I'll talk about in just a second, you will be surprised at how little they know. Right? And what Vishal said earlier about books we read, I mean, that was a great example, Vishal, where even this audience, you guys are interested in books, that's why you're here. Right? Not only that, if you, these days, on YouTube, it's very common to watch, see interviews, right? Long form interviews, film stars, cricketers, politicians, sports people. When the interviewer asks them to name their favorite books, seldom do you see them talking about Indian authored books. How can we be a Vishwaguru if we don't have our own role models, icons, and knowledge base? So anyway, let's get back to that. One study done with postgraduate students at a regional university in India revealed that only 11% of surveyed students reported having role models outside of their immediate family and educational institution. When students say their role model is their father or mother or grandfather or grandmother, I discount that. Okay, that really means they have nothing else to offer. So the shortcut is my grandfather, my father, my mother, my grandmother. None of them wants to have the life of their father or grandfather or their mother or grandmother. That's the truth. Okay, so the annual survey of education report, which focused on Indian youngsters between the age group of 14 to 18, says that 40% of the youth in our country report having no role models in the profession they are considering. No role models in the profession they are considering. I'm assuming some of you are MBA students, some of you are PhD students, some of you are probably on the faculty, or you are working in other jobs. Who's your role model in the profession that you are in or you are considering? I think we all need those role models. A few days ago, Narayan Murthy was here, one of the iconic, generous Indian icons with who IIMA has a long association. He has lamented publicly that youngsters in India rarely have role models that they can look up to. Okay. Even when we know names of some of these role models, we barely know anything about them. What adversities did they have to overcome? How did they really succeed? What did they have to do to succeed? You know who this is, right? Shiv Nadar of HCL. But you ask people about him, they barely know anything. The Nadars come from a community in South India where women were not even allowed to wear upper body clothing. Such was the state of that community not 200 years ago, 50 years ago. How does someone coming from such a backward community get past all the adversities and succeed? We know nothing about these people. Anil Manibhai Naik, the CEO, former CEO of L&T, Arunima Sinha, a top mountaineer in India, Zakir Hussain, tabla master. Some of these names you've probably heard. But how much do you really know about them? This is what we write in the book about a person called Venkatraman Krishnamurthy. And I'll ask you a question in just a minute. Now, notice what he says here. Any one of his successes, building BHEL in the capital goods sector, reviving the virtual private sector joint venture Maruti, and turning around the steel giant SAIL, would have been enough to qualify him as a great CEO. Not in India, great CEO in the world. Two of those things would put him among the best CEOs in the world. And all three takes him to the stratosphere virtually beyond reach and comparison, where few business leaders have ever reached. Tell me honestly, how many of you can say honestly that you've read one decent article or book about an Indian who's probably among the best CEOs in the world? Heads and shoulders above most CEOs in the world. Yet, if I ask you Jack Welch, if I say Elon Musk, I say Steve Jobs, Venkatraman Krishnamurthy, most people have not even heard of him, forget having read about him. Now, what's the IIMA connection with Venkatraman Krishnamurthy? Anyone? What's the IIMA connection? Vishal? He was the chairperson for several years at IIMA Ahmedabad. You would think we would have courses here about his leadership skills. You would think his bust would be on the campus somewhere so people can see and feel. You would think there are documentaries being played in the library about him. After all, this is the place where you make leaders. Right? And yet, even in this place, a hall full of people who are obviously passionate and interested in the topic know nothing about him. I tell you, if he was in another part of the world, they would have places dedicated to him on their campuses. If he was at Harvard, you would have a place where everyone goes pays homage to him. Our book is based, how did we identify 75 people? And maybe Vishal will go into it later. We looked at the Padma awardees, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan, to keep the selection process somewhat objective. When we asked people who they want to read about, one constituency showed up as people didn't want to read anything about them. Can you guess which constituency that was? I think you have it in your politicians. Nobody wanted to read about politicians, so we have no politicians in the book. Okay. He is one of the few people who's won Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, and Padma Vibhushan. Right? I think IIMA, because of their strong connection with him, certainly needs to do more to recognize one of the world's, I don't even want to say one of the world's top. If you are in the stratosphere, that means there's very, very, very few people who can match up to that. Point number 2. We absolutely need a positivity turn in our discourse, including everyday conversations, including our traditional and social media, and including in our collective memory and imagination. And all this includes classrooms and families. Parents leave it to the teachers to do, teachers leave it to the parents to do, it doesn't happen. We need a positivity turn. On my way to Ahmedabad, I picked up a newspaper to read, Dainik Bhaskar, and you know what it said on the front of Dainik Bhaskar? No negative newspaper. India's first positive newspaper. Those of you who've traveled abroad, you will see that their front page of the newspaper and even the inside page of the newspapers rarely have negative coverage. It's all positive. Right? We don't have that. In fact, here we think that the job of the media is to criticize. Why not also praise? How many of you are married? Anyone? Okay, a few of you? Okay. What if you were always criticizing your spouse? You think they would love it? Wow, I have someone to improve me. So good. That marriage, I don't think in today's time would last very much if you were always criticizing your spouse. We have a negative problem. The glass is always empty. And there are intellectuals who like to cloak this as, well, that is the real India. This is also the real India. The wonderful things you have at IIM is also the real India. The ITC Narmada is also a real India. How is that not real India? The metro in Delhi is also real India. How is that not real India? The students you get here who score 99.85%, I mean, I was amazed at the cutoff. That is also real India. And when I tell Americans about Indian higher education institutions, they cannot believe it. That no politician's son, no industrialist daughter, not even the director's kids can get in without scoring on the exam. That is also real India. Let's focus on the positive things. Have you heard of this guy, Jadav Payeng? We talk about him in the book. Have you heard about him ever? No. Any of these? No. Yeah, but she is also for her efforts, right? In forestation. Are they not real Indians? But when did I first learn about Jadav Payeng? When I saw a book in America about him. This one. In India. In America, a book about him. And then I tried to find a similar book in India about him, I could not find. So I had to buy the book in America about an Indian from Assam who probably cannot even read English to learn about him. And then, of course, I found more information on the web. Here is what Americans who have been exposed to this book say about him. And this is from Amazon reviews, okay? You can go check out the Amazon page for that book. A good book to teach kids about dreams and working hard towards achieving your dreams. Learning to be persistent, keep trying against, even in the face of all the hardships that come your way. If an individual wants, they can achieve anything they desire. Is that not the message we should be teaching our young children, our youth, our college students? Is that not the message that should be going in every family? This book was nominated for the North Carolina Children's Book Award in the US. So I purchased a copy for my school library, and every class without fail applauded at the end of the book. Someone is saying this in the US about a person they have no connection with. It is such an incredible story, so inspiring for my kids. Highly recommend it. Bought 2 of these as gifts for my grandparents. Tell me honestly, hand on your heart, how many of you give gifts of books, positive books, to your family members? 4, 5 of you, 6 of you maybe. Right? That's the message we should be spreading. Wonderful true story showing what determination and dedication can do. That's the message this person wants to pass on to their grandchildren. Point number 3. There is no country in the world where you go today and you hear as much discussion about being a global superpower as in India. America is already, so they don't talk about it. They just assume we'll always be. Right? China already is knocking at the door, and it will likely be, right, if they can deal with some of their issues. In no other country you travel in the world do you hear so much conversation about being a global superpower, Vishwaguru, right? But we cannot be that unless we focus on developing our own concepts, our own personalities, our own organizations. You cannot be a global power, you cannot be a Vishwaguru on the shoulders of borrowed personalities, borrowed concepts, borrowed organizations. You've all heard the phrase soft power, the ability to shape the preferences of others through appeal and attraction. We love to talk. Shashi Tharoor made soft power a popular buzzword in India, right? Shashi Tharoor, the famous writer and politician, right? He's one politician I think people are willing to listen about, right? Okay, Shashi Tharoor. But anyway, look at business textbooks in India. Look at business cases in India. I am amazed to see that even in the top business schools in India, in the top classes where we are teaching the young generation, the next generation of managers, most of the case studies, most of the examples are foreign. Right? Who's this person? Mithali Raj. What's her claim to fame? Cricket. She is one of the top cricketers in the world. Not just in India, in the world. We have instruments of soft power here. We have examples of people in India who've done things that are best in the world. We are not talking about it. We are not championing them outside. We are not showcasing them. Where is the leadership classes in our management schools that say, let's build a course around these positive icons of India? Right? By the way, Mithali Raj is also a feminist icon. Those of you who are feminists. Once she was asked, and we talk about this in the book, once she was asked, who's your favorite male cricketer? She said, do you ask the same question to the male cricketers? Who's your favorite female cricketer? treat us the same as you would a male cricketer. That's feminism. Amitabh Bachchan, not the best, most iconic actor in India, but in the world. Think about this. Amitabh Bachchan came onto the scene in 1969, right? Who was the top actor in the US in 1969? And what is that actor doing today? Is he at the stage Amitabh Bachchan is? Or is he retired and is in the news for all the wrong reasons? The funny thing about Amitabh Bachchan that most of us don't realize is my grandfather was a fan of him, and my niece and nephews are a fan of him, right? But we don't talk about them. Who's Abhinav Bindra? The shooter, the Olympic winner. Why are we not taking these icons? And why are their pictures not in embassies around the world, Indian embassies around the world? Why don't we have books about them in Indian embassies around the world? Why are we not doing events about them in Indian consulates around the world? Their stories, their successes can be our cultural influence for other societies. But for that, of course, first we have to know about them. With that, I'll pass on to Vishal.
Thanks, Vishal. Let me just let me just give you a flavor of what is it that we've written in the book. Uh, as we've talked about earlier, this is about Padma Awardees, and one of the aims in the book has been to cover almost, apart from politicians, almost all spectrum in which people have got Padma Awards, because we may have our own interests. Somebody amongst us wants to be a capitalist, have an organization, somebody wants to do an NGO, somebody wants to be a technocrat, somebody wants to be a sports person. So what we thought was we must make an effort to have icons in every discipline. It's not to say that it's just in one discipline. We've tried to keep it from across religions as diverse. So you have a Christian in the book, you have a Muslim in the book, you have people from different regions of the country. We have people from Assam, Jade Payang is there in the book. We have people from, so we've tried to make it as pan-India as we could. Just wanted to give you a glimpse of some of these. I've brought to you, we brought to you 4 stories. Azim Premji, I'm sure we all know, okay? But does anybody know how much of his wealth has he actually donated already? Close to about 2 lakh crores is something that he has already given up for charity. And we've written in this book, he says the wealth does not, he's a ardent believer of Gandhi's trusteeship principle, that the wealth of capitalists do not belong to them. You are a trustee for the wealth of poor. You've had it, and it is our responsibility to give it back to our society, even in greater terms than what we have received. He is listed in the top 3 of Asia's most philanthropic individuals, world's most philanthropic individuals. And you see, friends, we are organizational scholars. You see, if there is, I truly believe, reading about these individuals, if there could be a better gift for a country, there could be no better gift for a country than a patriotic capitalist. Because a patriotic capitalist can do so much for the nation by creating wonderful organizations, by doing doing things and giving it back to the country. So we have him as an example from the industry, trade and industry. You know who this individual is? Vijay Bhatkar. In 1987, Rajiv Gandhi went to the US and asked President Ronald Reagan, "We want your Cray supercomputer. Can you give it to us?" Give meaning by. By. As in, of course not. There's no charity. He said to President Reagan. So President Reagan said, "You can only get the previous version of the Cray computer on one condition, that you will only use it for weather forecasting. If you use it for any other thing, forget it. Not even a pin is going to come from America to India." Rajiv Gandhi comes back. He goes to this guy and says, "Can you build a supercomputer?" He says, I've just seen it in photos, but we will be able to do that." So Rajiv Gandhi asks, "How long will it take for us to make the supercomputer?" He says, "Lesser than what you will take to get it from America." Then he asks, "How much will it cost?" He says, "Lesser than what you will spend or pay to get it from the US." 1988 is when Center for Development of Advanced Computing for CDAC came into being. And 1991, India had a supercomputer. Vijay Bhatkar is that guy. Great nations are not built on borrowed technology, is what he said. And yes, for your information, one of the things that we've tried to do in the book, is we've written about people who are actually alive today. We consciously did not write about people 10 years who are not living. These are, yes, now of course with time, but yes, one passed away, to whom actually Mr. B.V. Doshi is also there in the book. But one of the things that we thought was, let's write about people who are actually alive. Our kids can see them around, right? They could read about them, not just in the book, but also in the newspapers. And so Vijay Bhatkar is that individual. Dr. Sering Landau is a doctor still practicing in Ladakh. She is Ladakh's first female gynecologist. She grew up in a Ladakh where she would see females after they had delivered. They were outcast from the society for some time because of all the complications thereafter. And growing up, she actually grew up in a family where she had to face resistance from her own uncles, from her own people, that no girl will study and become a doctor, and so on. But Dr. Sering Landau went on to do medicine, goes back to Ladakh, establishes gynecology department, starts to spread awareness there that these are things that we should be talking about. There is no taboo about it. And she would not charge. She was a salaried doctor. She would not charge anything extra, even if she had to serve and go, because again, going by Gandhi's principle that there should be no space for greed. I have enough. I am getting my salary. After that, I need to go out and help my people. At 79, this is what she says: "I've been here, okay, and since 79, and now I am even delivering babies of my grandchildren." How many of you know about Neeraj Chopra? Neeraj Chopra, yes, claim to fame, javelin gold medal 2020 Tokyo Olympics. But you know, India had a gold in javelin way before to 2020. It was actually in 2004 Athens Paralympics. It is this person, Devin Jajaria, when he was 8 years old, he climbed up a tree and there was a transmission wire passing where it was camouflaged in the leaves. There was no electricity in his village, but the wire that was crossing had electricity. and he, in his play, he catches that wire. His left hand had to be amputated. Do we give up? Does he give up? 2004 Paralympics, he actually wins a gold medal in javelin. 2016, I think Rio Olympics, he wins second gold medal, and he wins I think 2021 Tokyo Paralympics, he wins a silver. Just imagine, I was amazed. Look at the age difference, how much he would have had to work to keep himself fit for 2004 to 2021. We know athletes, it's very difficult. You are competing with the next people who are coming in, and this is Devendra Jhajaria from sports. So what do we learn? What have we kind of written about? I think we've talked about resilience. I think coming from hardships, it is easy to say give up. We can give up, but resilience is something that is important. GVK, this is a quote that's there in the book. He says actually that I didn't know about trade. I had no idea. GVK, who's built the Bombay T2, right, and all big industrialists. Humility. Adi Godrej would eat food with his people. Narayan Murthy, we were talking about, he actually, and we've written it in our post on LinkedIn. Narayan Murthy says that we did not have any special toilets for CEOs and MDs. We were using the same toilets. We were standing in the same queues in which our people were waiting to eat food. So no matter where you go, staying that. This is a beautiful quote, leading by example. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. Work hard. Leading by example in what you are. Deepika Kumari is another individual. When the coach would tell her go for one drill, she would actually go for two drills, because it was that motivation that she had, that I have to excel in what I am doing. Leading by example. Ratan Tata lived in Kolaba area, in that apartment which was perhaps more suited for a bachelor, and he lived there for many years, and not in a place which as in saying that I'm one of the richest person in India, in the country. And yeah.
Narayan Murthy was here. Where do you think he stayed when he was here?
Yes.
In Narmada? Where? Right here. I could not believe my eyes when I saw that.
Yeah.
And I told that to my wife on the phone. She could not believe it. And then when I visited my relatives in Ahmedabad and I told them, they did not believe it.
Yeah.
ITC Narmada is right here. For him, it's no big deal. He can just go stay here and Infosys staff will come, pick him up, bring him here. And when where do you think he was eating? IMDC. And the first day, I actually thought there was some professor sitting. When I saw him eat there, no entourage, no people surrounding him. I thought it's a professor sitting. And it turns out it was Narayan Murthy eating the same food, staying in the same location. I mean, that's what we should be learning from some of these people.
Yeah. Compassion. You see, there are people we've written, Dr. Sering Landau, who actually changed the course of their careers because of the pain that they saw around. Dr. Shetty, right? Devi Prasad Shetty. When he came back from UK, he joined as a cardiac surgeon in Birla Hospital in Kolkata. And he was actually treating Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa, while she was there in the hospital, she came to know that just in the room next to her, there is a boy, a very young boy who has a hole in his heart. And this boy has been operated by Dr. Shetty, and he is all right now. So when she meets Devi Prasad Shetty, she says that God has sent people like you to treat people like them. And all his plans of maybe going abroad or doing something else is he decided thereafter that he is going to serve in India. He's going to be in India. He's going to dedicate his life and career, and the rest is history. Narayan Hridyalaya came into being, and all of those things happened. So people, I think these are wonderful stories of, and yes, patriotism, as I said, patriotism. I find it very, very difficult to kind of uh, s- see that these people could donate so much of wealth. This is very, very contrary to the discourse that we often hear, right? We hear about corruption, we hear about greed, we hear about all those negative things, but there are people who are talking about not taking, I do not charge anything extra than what I get from my salary, because I believe there is no place for greed. I am enough. I am satisfied with what I am getting. And that is, I want to serve my people. I want to go back and give it back to the country. So that is something that we've kind of written in the last chapter.
So I'll finish by saying that, continuing this idea of what we have learned. First, let's acknowledge we have very little knowledge about our Indian army. That should be the starting point, right? And we've illustrated that with many examples, right? Why go far about Krishnamurti, who every IIM person should know. Narayan Murthy, who's actually worked at IIM Ahmedabad, right? Even about them, we know so little that we should have a positive turn in our discourse. Create courses, create a family environment, create the culture in your classrooms where you talk about positive things. Oh yeah, what discussion negative, but let's move on. And let's start taking pride in our own heroes. Let's start taking pride in the work some people are doing among us. And then the world will respect us. I think now they said is Q&A.
Yes, yes. So just one thought that somebody shared with me, which has always stayed with me. You know, what do we read when we read about philosophy? And we can, if we want to think about philosophy, whom do we read? We read about Western philosophers. You know what Western philosophers read when they have to reach the pinnacle of their knowing and understanding? They first learn Sanskrit. They first learn Sanskrit and read Sanskrit texts, our ancient Indian texts, which have talked about philosophy. This was a thought that was, we look to the West, and when they want to reach the pinnacle of their philosophy, what do they read? They actually read Sanskrit. So that is the whole idea, and I think we will not belabor this point more now. That I think let's be very proud of the country, the civilization that we are a part of, and just celebrate these people. This is a very, we've written in the book. This is a very small effort in making this point. If you want to, if you are interested, if you get interested in reading more about Indian heroes after you've read this book, I think we would consider our job done. Thank you very
They said now is Q&A. So we did our part now.
much. No, these are all secondary data.
We spoke to some of them.
Some of them, but
But
not. So largely these are secondary data. Which we've also tried to send the book to people whom we've written about. Yeah. So we are making that. Yeah.
questions.
Some of the personalities party people take it. Getting literature about them must be very difficult also.
Yes.
What all sources did we do today?
So we've looked at media, published media resources for people who were running their companies. You have yes.
You're like the one that boy you gave example. So those kind of thing might be very rare.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. So when the Padma Awards are published, Padma Awards also have some biographical records of the people, citations of these individuals. So we used that as a starting point and then went backward to see what all can we find about these individuals. So MHA has a very, I would say, reasonably maintained site. If you kind of select the year, you will get records of individuals and what have they done. So there is a write-up around these individuals.
And about some of these individuals, they have written books themselves. And
But thank you so much for that. And we at IIMA are grateful to inform you that we have featured teachers from our record. We have featured them twice. One from a snippet from the IIMA archives. Recently did a study, the IIMA and Padma awardees, and we got all this.
wonderful. But now I know why you knew about about this because you work at. But nobody else in this room did. And I think that goes to say we need to do more. See, it's easy to point fingers, right? Why is somebody not doing it? But let me ask you a simple question, right? Simple question. Many of your relatives these
You see, in psychology today, we say a lot of these things are actually learnable, and research is is pointing towards that. So, for example, learning mindset, resilience. These today we have reasonable empirical evidence that these are things that can be learned. Leading by example, authenticity as an individual, humility. There's huge amount of work on these topics, and uh, these traits run common to a lot of these individuals. Compassion and willingness to, as I said, trusteeship is not a new idea. Trusteeship is what Gandhi used to say. And there are works, some of my own works has been on this idea of trusteeship. So these are things that, and Azim Premji talks about it openly, that I have been coming from a Ismaili Muslim family. He says, I have been greatly influenced by Gandhi's thoughts around trusteeship, that a capitalist is actually a trustee of the wealth of the common man. So there are reasonable works if we want to, if we spread the word, if we teach these concepts. So there are things that can happen.
Yes, so I think the mindset difference becomes obvious as you read about that, right? But the mindset is not something they were born with. As Vishal said, they learn that. So when I was researching about Ratan Tata, right, you would think everyone knows.
So it would be as in talking about these as case studies when you're teaching topics. So, for example, in my leadership skills course, I teach not of Azim Premji, but I talk about an Indian entrepreneur who talks about trusteeship. And we've published a research paper on it, we've written a case study on it, and that is the one that we actually teach. Celebrating Indian organizations, we did a case study about a year and a half ago, which was on the BAPS organization, which organized uh, a month-long festival in Ahmedabad. Uh, I've written two case studies on it around service orientation, leadership, and people management. And how many organizations in the world have the wherewithal to create a city on 600 acres of land for 1 month, create it, run it, dismantle it in another month's time, and give back the land to people. 600 acres, that is six times the size of IIMA campus. They had parking of 300 acres. Three times the space of this campus was their parking. And so I talk about, so I think the idea is you've got to read, write, and then maybe take it to the, so you see, seva is a very, very Indian concept, service. And I think that is something that we try to bring out, how that organization, they've created so many Akshardhams around the world, but how in the whole community seva is so ingrained as an idea. What could the organization do to actually set it up through the whole principle of seva? So, uh, going forward, you don't need to teach the book, but go take look at these examples, research more on them. Maybe two or three out of 75 you may want to maybe document and then take it to your classroom. Maybe a capitalist, patriotic capitalist, maybe NGO or whatever. So I think that's the idea.
And Vishal, SP Jain, the institution in Mumbai, they developed a course around this.
Yeah.
They have a professor who's an IIMA grad, Sudhanshu and Ashneet, both are IIMA grads, and they both co-developed a course at SPJMIR, SP Jain Institute, that is learning from Indian icons. And the whole course was built around this book, and students were expected to read the chapters and then discuss about them in the class. And then, so the book was the textbook for the course in a way. And I have been teaching a course on Indian culture and economy and society in the US. And I used the book as a secondary text because I said, they don't know anything about Indians. If you ask most Americans, their knowledge of Indians starts and finish with Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi, that is. So I said, as we are covering the chapters, now find two or three Indians that you want to read about depending on the field. As Vishal said, we have 10 fields. And so then they had to read and then write about what they've read. How does that inspire them? So I think that if you want, now that you will be starting your faculty position, I think if you want to introduce a course like this, I think the SP Gen course gives a model for that.
Writing this book, I had a good opportunity of meeting Dr. Vikram years ago, but I heard about the super. I had a question. You were speaking about creating cultural narrative, and it's a great way to that because probably something that is grew up listening to stories of the Shivaji Maharaj, this mountain. How do you see what it's on what kind of movements or ways can we look at and create more of knowledge dissemination once the youngsters can decide to gently.
Well, so, it's in a way, I feel like
Okay, I will express my sincere thanks to both Professor Vishal and Professor Vishal Gupta to taking us through their book. I think a lot of takeaways for all of us, but great certainly. So, and passion, of course. I want to just get somebody outside.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.